So, welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is a short example of our positive affirmation course, and we wanted to give you some actionable strategies for making sure the positive affirmations you craft are actually beneficial and effective and do the job you want them to do. Hello, John. So, we're going to have some fun today. We're going to show people some bad examples and we're going to show them some good examples. Now, we've had a look at these examples already. You've had a chance to see them, and we just had a quick chat about them. You laughed about them. What was one of the things you noticed about them?
Well, the first thing I saw was that some of them are just way too long. I mean, to be practical, if you want someone to be able to remember something, it should be short, to the point, easy to recite, just a gist, not a paragraph. And no one's going to remember a paragraph to recite every day.
And of course, we've got to remember that the someone is us, the individual. So, as an individual, are you really going to listen to 500 words that will embed themselves in your subconscious and your psyche and then work overnight? I think for most people, not. So, the first thing that we would teach as the way to craft a good positive affirmation is to make it concise. Make it kind of snappy. It's easier for your brain to work on the big idea than it is to work on a 500-word essay about small items. We're going to take some examples and we'll put these up on screen as we do these. So here's a nice, snappy, simple, positive, well stated affirmation. Then we'll give you a bad one. I deserve to live a fulfilling life. Now, that's nice and simple. It doesn't say what a fulfilling life is. Your fulfilling life is different from mine. John, I know you have a very different life to mine. You're fulfilled. I'm fulfilled. But if people were to compare our lives, they're different. So, this is a nice general kind of, it gives space for the brain to interpret what is best for you. So, when we talk about the brain interpreting, John, that's an important point, isn't it? Because everybody's successful outcome is going to be different, right?
Yeah, I really like the way Thomas Jefferson put it. I have a copy of the Jefferson Bible that I really like. The original scans, like very, very cool little book. And something that he said in a letter to a friend of his was that two people can sit in the same pew of the same church for their entire life and still have entirely different religions. And that's true because everything is based on your perception, your experience, your life, what you've been through. And
Yeah.
I think that like these little mantras or these affirmations need to reflect that too. It's what's important to you, not what's important to me or whoever wrote it.
Yeah, personal choice there is really important. So that was a nice one because it does give the space for your own brain to interpret the way that is best for you. And, inside, we all know what's best for us, deep down. Sometimes deep down, sometimes it's on the surface. The next one is a bad example. So here we go. And then, John, when I've read this, if you can sort of just identify why it's a bad one. My gratitude for the people. I'm sorry, I'm laughing already because I can see what it says. It's so bad, this is. But let me read it again. My gratitude for the people, places, and things in my life is boundless. My family members, friends, and co workers are loving and caring individuals with a genuine concern for others. So there's two really major things in there. Do you want to start us off with the first one, John?
The first one is that what if some of that isn't true? Like, it's not true. What if you have a family member that's not loving or caring at all? You're not making them loving and caring by saying that they are. There's a better way to word that. So, first of all, your brain is going to reject that completely because it knows that's not a fact. And the affirmation isn't going to work if it isn't truthful. You can word something in a way that it's coming to you. Like, I like the way in The Secret, even though there's some things about The Secret I didn't care for, they made that point very well, that don't use affirmations that say the thing is right now if it isn't, but say that it's coming. Talk like it's in motion. And that is what's going to draw it to you as opposed to stating something as a fact when it simply isn't true at this time.
I want to come back to that in a second, but the second part of why this is no good, it's just too long. There's too much in there. You're going to overwhelm your brain. We want simple, nice, actionable ideas that the brain can work on. So, coming back to your point about this things coming to you, Anybody who's using positive affirmations, we're going to take for granted that they want to change from their state now to a different state. Whatever that state may be for them, it might be good for them, not for me, might be okay for you, might not be for you. But whatever state they're aiming to achieve, there has to be a transition from here to there. So what we have is we can acknowledge where we are now and acknowledge that the end state is in motion on its way. So if we look at family members, friends, and co workers are loving and caring individuals, maybe an absolute pack of lies. However, what we can do is react to them in a way that we choose so that we can have an affirmation. And I'm doing this on the spot. So normally you would take a little longer. You'd craft these with a little bit more thought and time. But as an example, you could say something along the lines of, I find it easier and easier every day. So I've got a continuous motion to deal with friends and family members and allow them to be the space to be themselves. Now, that doesn't make them good people, doesn't make them bad people. It allows them to be who they are. I can't change them anyway, so I'm acknowledging a reality. Uh, it's a nice, simple idea. Every day, I'm getting better at allowing people around me to be who they are. Now, you can take it a little further if you want to and talk more about how you react to them. But if you're really allowing somebody to be who they are, and particularly if you're doing this in a loving way, because everybody has something going on that is not necessarily good for them, we don't always know. We have to walk a mile in their shoes to know that. But if you can allow them the space to be who they are, you're automatically putting a little bit of distance. And whatever they do that might annoy you suddenly loses its impact. If I throw a really heavy sandbag or a ball or something at you very close, it may hurt. If you take 200 steps further away, it's going to hit the ground before it hits you. So by having that little bit of distance, you can kind of decrease any impact on these behaviors that people may have on you. The other thing that we have is the gratitude for people, places, and things in my life is boundless. Well, the things in your life may not be very good. You may have a lousy boss. You may have bills and bill collectors knocking on your door 24/7. There may be really bad things going on in your life. However, your energy to deal with those things can increase every day. So you could change that instead of gratitude for people, places, and things. Is my ability to deal with all the things in my life that happen every day is increasing every day. And if you're dealing with them, then there's a chance that you can improve them because in dealing with problems, particularly if you can face them head on, because you have the confidence to do so, because you're telling yourself you have the confidence to do so, it is easier to deal with a resolution. Hiding your head from a debt collector, for example, is going to make it worse. Dealing with them, negotiating terms, explaining your situation can usually lead to an improvement in the situation and take some of the stress away. So that's just one example of a badly worded original crafted affirmation and how we can change it into two and then make them slightly more positive. So one of the things that we talk about, John, is state them in the positive. But as you said earlier, we can have them in the positive um, present continuous tense. So we're having a movement from A to B. I
Yeah,
am in the process of.
yeah, there's two things I want to say about that. First, in regards, I really like the illustration you use where if someone throws something at you close up, it hurts, but if you're far enough away, it's not even going to touch you, it's going to hit the ground. That really reflects the Buddhist concept of detachment. And when I first started reading about Buddhism, I'm not a Buddhist, but I respect this principle a lot and I try to apply it. When I first started reading about it, I thought, well, that sounds kind of cold. The word detached is probably the wrong word. It should probably be a different word in English. It doesn't mean that you're detached as in you don't care or you're unfeeling. It's that you're detached in the sense that you recognize that your response to things is what causes your suffering almost every time. In almost every situation, it's not really that someone's being rude to you. Yeah, they're being rude, and that's rude. But the thing that causes you to be hurt by that is internal, not
Yeah,
external. So you're creating your own suffering by your response. Whereas, like you said, if you can distance yourself from that and give them space to be who they are, and if you can take action to be, well, I don't want to be around this person because they're rude, you can leave. great. But if you can't leave, it's your boss or something like that, you can recognize that the suffering that's being created, you're causing, and you can distance yourself from it. You're never going to like their behavior, but it's not going to hurt you anymore. And that's really the benefit of that kind of thinking. So I just wanted to point that out, that these things are not new that we're talking about. These
No,
principles have been around for thousands of years, but a lot of them are lost in standard Western culture now. And so we don't hear about them as often as I think we should.
it's interesting you talk about the terminology there. Detachment does sound cold. If this if this shows on screen, great. If not, I'll do an overlay. But to me, this is what detachment means. So can you see what I've just written there? A equals B equals C. How about A equals B does not equal C? We detach the outcome, our emotional response, from the input, the impetus, the trigger. So the trigger is somebody's mean to you at work or says things you don't like. The response is whatever you're used to, how you respond. You feel bad or you argue, you have a fight, you walk out in a storm off, whatever it may be. If you can detach that equation, A does not have to lead to B or B does not have to lead to C. You've broken the causation link. And the detachment, therefore, is from that triggering impulse to the outcome that you have full control over. I don't control other people. I can't. I can try to, but I can't really. I can control me if I choose to. And so, one of the things that's important, I think, in positive affirmations is to ensure that what you're controlling is that which is within your control. So, I get a multi-million dollar increase at work. I'm not the one delivering that. It's somebody else. It's the boss or the CEO, whoever it may be. What I can do is talk about my ability to add value to the company or the firm, and that can lead to the other things. But I can't directly control the CEO. So let's have a look at another one of these, John. Is there anyone on that list I gave you that you like to talk about, just as an example? I can
Uh,
read it, or you can, whichever you
You're
prefer.
you're so much better at picking that stuff out.
I'll pick one. Okay. Uh, there's some interesting ones. Another one, it's kind of similar to the first one, but let's have a look. This one sounds good, but when I've read it, if you can, we'll ignore the length of it first of all, but there's a particular element within it that does not work. And we need to explain why it doesn't work and how to change it. Challenges are an opportunity for learning. I assess my weaknesses and work on turning them around. I consider my missteps and develop a strategy to avoid them in the future. So it's too long, we know that. But there are a couple of things in there that are really absolutely devastatingly bad for affirmations. They simply do the opposite of what you're trying to achieve. So, did you see what they were, John? Did you hear them when I mentioned them?
Well, you can't put things in a negative. You should never put things in a negative. You should always talk about the positive. So that's really the fundamental problem. And I notice that people do that, and I too, I used to do that. That you would talk about how I'm not going to do this negative thing, but all that does is put the negative thing in your head. The idea is to get the negative out of your head. So rather than stating the thing you're not going to do, state the thing you are going to do. You're not going to talk about the thing you don't want to happen. You're going to talk about the thing you do want to happen. And that's really the fundamental problem there.
Yeah, so we've got this line here: I assess my weaknesses and work on turning them around. All you're doing is telling yourself you have weaknesses. Now, look, we all have weaknesses. We know that already. But telling yourself you have weaknesses isn't the same as improving them. So, I forget the name of the psychologist. Oh, was it Maxwell or something? A long time ago, with patients who had various levels of mental distress, there was a mantra developed, which is every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. It doesn't talk about the starting point. Your starting point could be rock bottom. 1% improvement is better, right? 10% improvement is better. We're not putting limits on ourselves. We're saying I'm getting better today. I assess my weaknesses and work on turning them around. A more positive way to deal with this is to tell yourself what you're going to do. So the turning them around is kind of almost there. So uh, I improve myself every day. It's a simple statement. I improve myself every day. Now, there's a secondary element to this, which is I haven't put a lid on it. There's no limit. And I haven't said how I improve. Here's the trick. Your brain, or your subconscious, if you want to call it that way, knows where you need to improve. You've just told it every day you improve. You're letting it do the things it can do for you without putting a limit on it. I improve my golf score every day is fixed on one thing, right? I improve every day allows me to improve my golf score, maybe my ability to work hard, my gym bench press, whatever it may be. I'm not putting a limit around it. So, in being slightly more vague, not too vague, but in slightly more general, we give ourselves more permission to do more. And the subconscious works on this. I mean, if you've ever forgotten the name of somebody or the name of a book or a film, I can guarantee you 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later, you're driving, you're going to the shop, talking about what you're going to have for dinner. 17, that was the name of the film. Or, Matthew Perry, that was the name of the actor. Whatever it was you were looking for, it's come out of nowhere. Well, it hasn't come out of nowhere. It's come out of your subconscious brain doing the work while you let it. You let it do its thing. So by having that slightly more general term, we open up the possibilities. The next part of this is I consider my missteps. Missteps. So that's telling you that you keep thinking about the things you do wrong. That's literally what it means. I consider my missteps. I'm thinking about the things I do wrong. Bad idea. I consider how I can improve every day, something like that. And again, that's allowing the brain, the subconscious, the space and freedom to come up with answers you might never come up with yourself. I know because you're a coder, John. Sometimes when you've slept on a problem and you've messaged me the next day, it's like I came up with this wonderful idea, and you tell me what the details were. It's like, well, that's brilliant, and you did it in your sleep because you let the brain process, you let it ferment. So, although it sounds more general, it's actually allowing more space for this really powerful, incredible instrument we have to do the thing it's great at, which is coming up with creative solutions and identifying issues and so on. Anything you want to add to that, John, before I look
Yeah,
at some others?
it's funny that you should mention me waking up with a coding solution because just yesterday, I'm in the middle of a big project right now, a big coding project right now, and just yesterday, Beth told me, my wife told me, she said, uh, even when you're asleep, you look like you're working because I'm so embedded in this project. She says, like your face, I can tell like you're thinking even when you're asleep. And I have no doubt that's true right now because you know me, I'm 1,000% when I'm deep in a project, if I'm in it at
Yeah,
all. Uh, and that's just true. It's been my experience that when you're consciously focused on a thing, your conscious mind is very smart, it's very analytical, it's good at
yeah,
problem solving, it's very logical. That's a good thing, often gets the job done. But sometimes it keeps looking at a problem in the same way because it's the only way your conscious mind knows how to work. And while your conscious mind is focused on a thing, your subconscious won't touch it because it thinks, oh, well, the consciousness has it covered. I don't need to do anything. But when you stop, and for me personally, when I ask my subconscious to solve the problem, because I don't have active control over that part of the brain. Nobody does in the same way you do over the things you're consciously thinking about. When I ask it to solve that problem, and even if I forget to do that, and go away. Well, see, now your subconscious is aware that there's an unsolved problem that needs a solution. And it's aware that your conscious mind is focused on something else now. So it's like, oh, I think you need some help with this one. Let me get on it and see what I can do. And invariably, the next day, hours later, while I'm at lunch, whatever the case is, boom, solution just pops into my brain when I'm not even thinking about it. It is so powerful. Your brain is so incredibly powerful. I heard a great description of it. The world's fastest supercomputer, it's called Xi. It's in China. It's huge. It's the size of a super Walmart, a huge department store. It uses the power of a small city just to run. In order to create the same amount of processing power that your brain, which is this big, creates on just as much energy as it pulls from a banana and a piece of steak, right? That's amazing, and you should take full advantage of that by not second guessing whether or not you're going to have the solution. Your brain can figure it out, but sometimes you get in your own way, and it's important to step back and let it do its thing.
Well, Einstein, very clever guy, genius, everybody's heard of him. And to be fair, I don't know if this story is true, but he certainly told it. He came up with the theory of relativity in a dream. He actually imagined himself riding a beam of light, and it made everything make sense for him while he was asleep. He'd been working on it consciously, like you were saying there, and there's a limit to the conscious mind because you've got all kinds of other things to do, like the ancient part of the brain where there's the tiger waiting to get you, or another tribe's coming to rob you. You've got to be aware of all these things at the same time. But the subconscious mind has a different set of parameters and priorities. And he came up with one of the fundamental physical laws in a dream, which is incredible, really, to think of. So it's a tremendously powerful tool if you give it space to work. Excuse me. Um, and if you allow it the time to do so without putting a ring around it by being too specific, which is one of the examples we've given. So far we've talked about talking in the present, and even if that's in the present continuous. So I am getting better, or whatever it may be. And we've talked about making the positive affirmations reasonably short and concise so the brain can latch onto them. It's got to be kind of a single idea. Don't cram in the entire, the whole 9 yards. And we've also talked about avoiding using negative language. We want to be looking for positive outcomes for whatever we're seeking, because the brain is moving towards that. We're not running away from something, although it can feel like that. We're actually trying to be drawn towards. So, if there's a mad dog behind me, I'm going to run fast. Um, that's in real life. But in terms of using affirmations, the thing behind you isn't going to propel you as far as the thing ahead of you. So you focus on the thing ahead of you, because that's what we're trying to stretch out towards. So I've got another one here, which, again, this is an example of untruths, and your brain will fight you on this because it knows it's untrue. I can tell myself I'm 5'10", 6'6", whatever. I know that's not true. The affirmation's not going to make me any taller. It can make me happier with being a short guy, right? So here's one. My home is tranquil and comfortable. It is well within my financial means and it provides me with stability. It fits who I am without being pretentious or over the top. Well, that may not be true. My home may not be tranquil. I may live near drug dealers. It may not be comfortable because I've just moved in and I've no money and I'm looking for work. If I tell myself that, am I likely to believe it? No, because I'm in the middle of a not tranquil, not comfortable environment. However, I can tell myself what I'm aiming towards and that I'm moving towards it. So I am working hard to making my home a comfortable environment. Whatever state it is today, if it's a shack, I can make it better tomorrow a little bit, even if it's only 1%. So I am working hard every day to make my home more comfortable. I can't argue with that because I can do that. If I claim it as comfortable already, that may be just a pack of lies. It's well within my financial means. Right now, there's a tremendous global economy problem. In the UK, mortgage rates have gone increasingly higher. Many people are struggling to pay their mortgage. If you were to say this to somebody who's struggling to heat their home and pay their mortgage, this is within your financial means, they'd laugh in your face. You would do the same if it's true of you. If you're having that same struggle, I mean, come on. Are you really going to believe yourself when you tell yourself a pack of lies? No. What you can do is tell yourself that you will work your way out of it. Let me think of an example. Let me take a couple of seconds for that. because that's one way you would need to be looking at a positive outcome that is nothing to do with the global economy, nothing to do with your mortgage lender, but has to do with your own income and expenditure. Now, those are things in your control. You can spend less, you can get a side job, second job, or a side hustle, make more money, that kind of a thing. Perhaps sell things you no longer need, maybe cut back on holidays and so on. So, something along the lines of I prioritize the means to pay for my house so that I am safe and secure and have somewhere to live. All true. I'm putting it first. I'm not going to go buy, something I saw the other day, like the latest Samsung S77 or the iPhone 76 or whatever will come along in a few years. I'm prioritizing the environment, the house, the payment of the house. And that's a very simple thing. You can control that. Now, the priorities of doing that could be you pay that first, and what you have left is for your leisure and so on. It could be that you go get a second job. It could be that you sell some things you no longer need. You've left it open to the brain, the subconscious, to find ways to do it. Right? I didn't say I'm going to make more money to do this. The positive affirmation was I prioritize making sure that my mortgage and home are protected. How? Leave it to the subconscious because it's going to do the job for you. It will find ways. You'll suddenly think, oh yeah, I haven't used that for 5 years. I could sell that. Or they're looking for part-time workers. I could maybe earn a few $100 extra that would make a difference. Doesn't matter what it is. You've now left it completely wide open for your subconscious, this powerful, incredible tool to come up with solutions for you. And it may come up with more than one solution. And that's the great thing. You get a choice of solutions. You can pick, I like that one, I like that one. This one we'll keep on the back burner. By making it, again, slightly more general, we give space for creativity. And so, from that point of view, we turn this sort of negative lie, my home's tranquil and comfortable and I'm within my means, it could be a lie for many people. We turn it into something that's a statement of truth for the present continuous, what you are going to be doing day to day. Anything to say on that point, John?
Well, yeah, I think one of the fundamental problems that people have with things like affirmations is so many of them are so poorly worded, and they're not true. And that's why it's important to make sure that whatever you're saying is you're advancing in improvement, because everybody can do that. Doesn't matter. Everybody can do that. If you say, "Oh, I cannot possibly do anything better than I am today," well, then you haven't had much life experience, because you can always do that 1%. That's always possible. So it's not that affirmations don't work, it's that you have to word them correctly and they have to be realistic. Like like you said earlier, oh, millions of dollars are going to be handed down to me by the CEO. Okay, well, maybe, hopefully, that, yes, that absolutely could come in the future, sure. But what can you do today? What is that step today that you could do? And that's another thing that I like about the Buddhist perspective on things, is that yes, of course, there's an end goal. But that should not be your focus, because the reality is, look back over your life. How many of your long-term goals ever stayed the same? They almost always change, because life changes and the direction you take changes. You may have gone in that general direction, but that specific thing you were so sure was going to be 5 years later almost never is. Therefore, they say yes, have an end goal, but the work should be for the purpose of the work. It is its own reward, so to speak. So when you're washing the dishes, that is your entire purpose in life. When you're at your job, that is your entire purpose in life. When you're playing with your kid, that's your entire purpose in life. And you shouldn't be off focused on an end in this moment. You should be focused on that one thing. And those steps bring you to a goal that's good for you. And I think a lot of affirmations get that wrong too. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Well, that's why we've done this short summary. And of course, the entire course that we provide goes into this in a great more detail and gives the carefully crafted affirmations that you can use if you don't have time to create your own. That just reminded me of something we've all heard of in the past, I'm sure. What you've just said, very true. Be careful what you wish for. You may just get it. You know, what we think we want is not always true. In fact, I love Star Trek. I love film quotes, TV quotes, as you know. And it reminds me of an episode of Star Trek where Kirk and Spock are having a fight because of a sort of a marriage ritual on Vulcan. And Spock actually thinks he's killed his captain. It's a trick, he hasn't. But he turns to his intended, his bride, because at that point, effectively, they've become divorced and somebody else marries her. He turns to the new husband and says to him something along the lines of, it's often more pleasant to want a thing than to have it. It's not logical, but it is true. You know, how many times have people got a brand new phone or a brand new car? You like the new car smell, and then a week later, it's just a car. But just before you get it, it's like the big thing, and I want this. Be careful what you wish for; you may get it. And
There's some
okay,
great science on that too. I read
yeah,
a wonderful and amusing study a few years ago that your brain can only recognize a thing as new for roughly 3 to 4 months tops. So that brand new car feels really good for a maximum of 3 to 4 months. And then you're throwing cheeseburger wrappers in the back seat because you just don't care anymore. Whereas you kept it perfectly clean for the first 3 months. That's just how your brain works. Experiences are what always bring back positive responses. Even bad experiences. And let's say you went on a vacation, your dream vacation somewhere, and it just rained cats and dogs the whole time and ruined it. During that experience, it's terrible and you're so upset and disappointed. But years later, you're laughing about that and you retell that story over and over and over again. That's why you should focus on experience rather than on things. Less stuff, more life. Now, that's an affirmation you can use.
that's a really great point. And there's something I tell people about that particular point regularly. You just said you have this terrible experience, raining, thunderstorm, whatever. Years later, you'll be laughing about it. There's a saying, one day you'll laugh about this. I choose to make that day today. Why wait? You know, why not laugh in the middle of it? Because if you're going to laugh anyway, what is the point of waiting? Have the fun now, you know? And there's a thing called Beast from the East, which was a terrible storm a few years ago. We were in Ireland, in Dublin. My sister had come over from the States. And as we landed, the snowstorm set in. By the time we got to the hotel, the airport was closed. And I mean, the snow was, really, really thick. They actually closed down the stores. It was almost like a lockdown because it was so bad. So there was no way to get food and things like that. We had an absolutely wonderful time because we were laughing about it. We made the most of it. By the way, I had to persuade everybody, the others, that we might as well laugh about it now because otherwise you would cry. And even now, when we talk about it, it's just smiles and laughter. Do you remember when? Yeah, but other people in the hotel we were staying at, there were faces, long faces, and quite a few of them sitting at the bar, drowning the sorrows. Nobody went out, and so on. Looked at objectively, it was a ruined holiday, a ruined trip. Well, it was a short trip, it was 4 days. But if you look at it with a reframing, which effectively is what positive affirmations are, you're reframing your belief system, it changes. You're having the experience of a lifetime, probably never have that experience again. You're going to see people in all kinds of circumstances, some who will be laughing, some who will be sitting miserable, some who will be making new friends, which we do. We talk to strangers. Why not choose to have that today instead of 2 years from now? We'll laugh about it someday. Let's choose to have that today. And that effectively really comes back to this thing about positive affirmations. What we're asking ourselves to do is to believe in the moment something new about ourselves, which is true if we allow it to be. So we've gone over a couple of examples here, and I think they illustrate the weak points of bad affirmations nicely. We go into greater depth on how to construct really great affirmations in a positive way in the full course. Is there anything you want to add, John? Because we've covered quite a lot here, and I'm conscious we want to leave people with that information so they can now go implement this for themselves.
I only have one thing left to say because I like to mention the authors and the people I've read that have really done a lot of good for me in relation to what you were saying about choosing to make the moment a good one rather than a bad one. Michael A. Singer has his wonderful book, The Untethered Soul. What he refers to that as is unconditional happiness. Like you have a choice whether to be happy in this moment or whether to not. And I choose to be happy because I like being happy better than being frustrated and sad and irritated. And of course, we're all human. It all
Yeah.
gets the best of us. It's unrealistic to think that you're going to do that every moment of every day in the worst of circumstances. But the more often you remember that you have a choice about whether to let this
Yeah.
ruin your day or whether to not, the better your life is going to be. And so I would just encourage everyone to try to remember that as often as possible. You have a choice to have unconditional happiness, and you have a choice to not.
Who would choose anything else? I mean, really. Yeah, it's what everybody's seeking, and yet we seem to put obstacles in our way. So thank you everybody for joining us, and I hope you have some insight on how to construct and craft a really good positive affirmation. Quick summary: make it concise, make it positive, don't put in negatives. Make it present continuous if it's something you're not yet able to do. Don't say you're a millionaire. Say you're working every day to improve your financial situation. You might earn an extra dollar this week. You've improved your financial situation. And the feedback you get from succeeding is as good as if you'd made 500 extra dollars. The feedback, it doesn't sound like it, but the feedback is you succeeded. You made extra money. You didn't put a limit. You didn't say, I'm going to make an extra thousand this week. You left it generic, gave yourself space, and therefore the feedback loop that you get is I did what I said I would do. I made some extra money. I succeeded. I am a person who succeeds. And you get this feedback loop that goes back into the next iteration of your affirmations. And you come out stronger because you already believe that those affirmations are powerful and work for you. It's fantastic. Okay, thanks everybody for watching, and we will see you in future videos. And I hope you join us on the course. We'll give you details below. Thanks for watching. Bye now.